welcome to my garage. A couple of months ago I decided to basically go hunt for a Ferrari F430. I had a hard time to actually find any information about how and what car to buy. So I ended up doing a lot of Googling, and as you do also, I went spending a whole lot of time on YouTube trying to figure out what car to get. But actually doing that, I couldn't really find much information, so I decided that I'll try to do this mini-series now that I actually found the car. And we'll also go through some minor tweaks and twerks that will be done to the car. The first one we're going to do today, we're going to install the Capristo exhaust controller so that you can open the flaps. So actually maintain the original Ferrari parts while still actually having a much greater sounding engine. Worth noting though is that there is a reason why Ferrari actually installed these flaps, and that you have more resistance on lower revs to get more torque, less resistant open valves on higher revs to get a more free-flowing engine and higher horsepower output basically. So for good sound, open flaps. For performance, keep it stock-ish, at least the same back pressure. Also, we go through that. We got the Ferrari right here. Got a gray one. I didn't want to get a red one since that's really basic Ferrari. But we'll also do some comparisons with this one, my kind of daily driver, the Porsche 991.1. So these two cars are very similar in that sense. The Porsche having a flat six though, 4 liters, 400 horsepower, but it has a dual clutch, which makes it fast and very comfortable to drive. While the Ferrari has the single clutch system, the F1 gearbox, which was back in the days, 2007, 2012. That was the first years. These ones are maybe the last years, 2005 were the first ones, I think. So basically, single clutch, dual clutch, clunky, quick, much nicer. So basically we'll run through, because these ones are basically the same price. You can pick one of these ones up for around 80,000 euros, 800,000 SEK in Sweden. But the Ferrari, of course, being the more exotic one, the Porsche being much more of a nice daily driver. So during the couple of episodes, we'll run through some differences and some very big similarities in these cars and how they drive and all this stuff. So if you have any questions that you would like to do comparisons, or that you want to see or think, or any questions you might have thinking of getting either one of these cars, but most recently the Ferrari, I guess, since this series is going to be about the 430 and maybe trying to find out what to look for when you buy one used, what to think about, and how you do some maintenance and stuff. So stay tuned, and today we'll do the exhaust stuff. Okay, so first of all, of course, pop the hood, and what we're going to do is basically see these ones. These are the two controllers of the exhaust, and inside of these panels here and on this side, there's two solenoids that controls these one, open and closes them, which opens and closes the flaps for one of the sides of both of these exhausts. So what we're going to install is this little control unit from Capristo, which are Italian, I believe. And that comes with a lot of cables and stuff, a long one and a short one, so you can choose to mount it either on the left side or the right. But it then comes with a small control unit like this, and I'll show you later once it's actually installed that you can then program it to do different stuff. Always closed, always open. I think you can do always closed. You can at least do always open, and then you also have, of course, the factory setting. Kind of good quality. Of course, always plastic, but shiny parts are at least metal. So we're gonna go away, and we're gonna start by removing these 4 screws. That's one up here, got one over here, and then there's 2 down there, and the same on this side. This side though has this little lever that opens the the fuel cap, but it has a small little metallic piece here that you need to be really careful removing, and then of course moving this handle. It's got the wire in it, so I think we need to open it. Okay, so we have just removed this right panel, and here's the reservoir, I believe, for the pump well, not the reservoir, I guess, but yeah, for the gearbox and the pump for that one, that basically pumps up the pressure. So it's a lot more things here. If you have a manual, you're not gonna have those two. But basically down here, as you can see, this is the solenoid controller, and this is the connector that we are gonna then disassemble and put the new connector in between so it can control it. But this is the one. So you pry it up, open here, pull it out and connect it, and I'll show you that. But now let's move to the right side, the more tricky one. Okay, so now we also removed the left side panel. I actually just kept this one on. I removed the little thing, but then realized I didn't need to, because you can just place it here, given that you put some protection. But now this is the tricky side. As you see here, the solenoid on this side is right here. But on the right side, you don't get that. So I think it's either really, really hard to see. I think you might be able to see it. It's down there. Let's see if we can focus on it. Yeah, it's basically the blurry part down there. Oh yeah, camera doesn't really want to focus, but yeah, you can see they're in between down there. There is, so we need to figure out a way to get in there. So we can, I think this little piece here, we can basically loosen these two screws, and I think we can move it a tiny bit just so that we can get our hand in between here. I can see that right down there, that little black thing with the red black cable. So that's the one we need to disconnect. I guess we need to do it without being able to see it. Okay, so another thing we need to do is, of course, we need to figure out and decide where to mount this one. Given that it's so much things over here, I think we'll go for this side, given it's kind of small. If you use the Forza Componente, it's 4 or 5 times bigger. I think you need to mount it behind one of these two, but the Capristo that I recommend is so tiny nowadays. So you need to mount it on this little thing here, I guess. I'll go something like that. Or I guess on that side, giving it a bit harder. So I actually think I'll try to mount it on this one. So I think it will just sit like that. It seems to be fairly easy. It's flat, so it just sits right there, easy to dismount and mount. And also we need to connect the ground cable to that one, and so we need to figure out, and I think I'll just use this one, go straight into the frame, so we'll get some ground, and it's the only connection you need to do. So, okay, so let's start by I'm also gonna wipe off some here, but we're gonna start by connecting the solenoid valves or controllers and the connectors, which means we're gonna go for the short cable on this side and the long one from this side, and then run it through here behind. There's already some cables going here, so we'll just run it with them so it looks as stock as possible. Also, good thing to note, always wear gloves. It's really dirty in here. Okay, so the installation is now basically done. As you can see down here, I've mounted the controller here, but this little extra strap here because it was actually moving a bit back and forward. Not the most beautiful, but sits rock solid. I then mounted the ground cable to this little bolt here, routed it backwards, and the antenna that you also need to route, I just mounted it here with the small strap. So that goes here. Then you see the 2 cables here from the new solenoid connectors. We have one that runs from of course, the right side, goes back here. I'm not fitted it correctly because I'm gonna test it first. And then it goes here, and also gonna tighten these cables so it looks nice and tidy. But that connector goes, you see here, in between, and there's the new one. These connectors, I actually thought you would kind of bend it open, but what you do is you push them. So that's nice to know. I'm gonna remount that one. Same with the ones down here, and I'll put those connectors here. So I actually didn't need to move this one. I could just use my hand. It's a bit tight, but you can get behind there if you have small hands. Mine are not too big, medium gloves-ish size. So it now works. And before putting everything back, just gonna, or basically I'm gonna put everything back, and then I'm gonna show you what the difference are. So these ones are now worked. So, but one thing you need to think of if you do a 430 is that you get this little magnet with. I actually thought this was a gimmick, but the magnet is used to put, there's 2 hidden controllers here. One to train a new remote, and one to actually switch, because this is a standard component, I guess, so it switches the way the solenoids work, so you can do normal or reversed. and this car actually is the reversed kind. So you need to use this one to blip it on the top corner, and it will remove or reverse them, and then it works. So just you get this small little manual that goes with it. Shows you everything you need to know about how to install it. So that one is good to have as well. And also always make sure to protect your little baby. So let's mount everything up and do a test start. Well, that basically wraps it all up. The controller is mounted. We've tested exhaust. It sounds amazing. It's time to take it out for a drive. That's gonna be another series and episode though. So if you like the install, if you want to have any questions or anything you're thinking about, just comment in the section below. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.